Hey everyone, welcome back. I have a special video for all of you guys watching. A lot of you know that I have been covering other games on this channel just because I like doing that on my YouTube, but Lost Ark has been going through a ton of turmoil recently, and I still enjoy playing the game with my friends, and there's so much drama surrounding the game that's been kind of a unique situation or a frustrating situation. And I wanted to put together a podcast where I could get as many people to chime in on the game as possible. So I put together what I could on the day of. We have Saint, ATK, Benji, and even Asmongold because he was around that day. So it was a bit of an impromptu podcast. And I typically don't like having that many people on a podcast because it's hard to get everyone an opportunity to talk. But I thought it would be good for at least this one to give everyone a chance to kind of share their thoughts on what is going on. It is a two-part podcast, however, so there will be an after show where it's a little bit more free-flowy, and it's just more Lost Ark centric, and that will be on my highlights channel, so that will be linked down below in the description. You can check that out if you are interested. Now, we do have a sponsor for this video, so we'll hop into that, and I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I hope it is therapeutic for some of you. Thanks. This video is sponsored by GameStop for their brand new Diablo 4 Xbox Series X bundle. With the release of Diablo 4, this exclusive bundle includes an Xbox Series X console, a wireless controller, an ultra-high-speed HDMI cable, as well as a full copy of Diablo 4. The bundle also features a variety of cosmetics across various Diablo titles, as well as World of Warcraft. Enjoy hundreds of titles available through the Xbox Game Pass membership, all of which can be enjoyed on a custom 1TB SSD. The bundle also features my cat Earl. I'm just kidding, it doesn't include that. But if you are interested in exploring the world of Diablo 4, gathering some epic loot, or slaying demons in nightmare dungeons, all of which from the luxury of your own couch, you can check out the link in the description, and a big thank you to GameStop for sponsoring this video.
Bro, it's been so long, you know that? It's like been a year.
I haven't done a podcast like this in a while, yeah.
Well,
I did a couple, but I haven't had like all of us on it again. I tried to get Zeals on, but he had like some family things going on today, so
yeah. There's not enough crazy stuff going on. That's why. Now we have crazy stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a bit of a lull, yeah.
Well, there was like, well, I'll just, hello YouTube. This is gonna go on YouTube. We're just here to chat about all the shit that's going on. I don't have to really introduce everybody. Yeah. You guys kind of know everyone from just previous podcasts in the past, so yeah, say hello to the YouTube frogs. There's a lot of shit going on in the game right now.
Welcome, YouTube, to the MMO that stopped respecting my time.
Dude, okay, hold on, Asmon. I saw your.
You really
No. Listen, no. Listen, I have. Okay, go for it. Go for it.
I mean, because, like, man, every time I hear any video about Lost Ark, people always say that, finally, an MMO that respects your time. Like, in 5 years, people are still going to bring that shit up.
I have to live with that. Listen.
Yeah,
I have to live with that, right? Okay, yeah. So that title I made through a Discord message. I showed it on my screen, on my chat. I showed it to my chat on screen today, okay? And we specifically crafted that title for you to watch the video, okay? Because you kept talking about Final Fantasy respecting your time. So then before that I had posted a video.
It's my fault. I ruined your rep.
No. Okay. So before that, I crafted a video called "The MMO That Made Me Quit World of Warcraft." That video got 750,000 views. Okay, so I'm like, all right, that was a banger, and I was gonna do part 2 to that. Then we did respect your time because you kept talking about Final Fantasy respect your time, which is a load of shit because there's no video games that respect your time. It's just about having fun, right? But then I made a Blue Protocol video that you reacted to. Okay.
Yeah.
And I titled it "The MMO That Made Me Quit Lost Ark."
Okay.
Did pretty good. In the beginning of the video, I had an intro where I memed on the respecting your time thing, and then you reacted to it, and your editor titled the video "Finally an MMO That Respects Your Time." Do you know how many views that video has? It has 1.2 fucking million views of my video with a title that I used.
Well, I mean, like, look, it's just like, I mean, the editors, they do what they're gonna do.
I mean, I'm just saying, dude. I was like, what the fuck, bro? This guy used the title. He got 1.2 million views.
It works.
It's a good title. It's a good title.
It becomes a meme.
It's a good title. It's a good title. It's a good title. But yeah, I have to live with that fucking. I have to live with that shit.
Put it on your tombstone.
I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's fucked up. In my defense, the game was a little bit different, and then the game launches, and 1 month after, Argos fucks up, and then people are like, you fucking told me this game respects my time, and I didn't want to turn on my stream for like 2 days. That was fucked up. I have to live with that for the rest of my life streaming this game.
It's a bad time. It was.
It was pretty fucking bad. But that's besides the point. Okay, so today I've got a shitload of topics to talk about, okay? We're going to kind of start from the start of like how we got into this situation a little bit. And then we're going to go up until the live stream that took place last night, which basically was them coming out to apologize for all the fucked up stuff that is going on in the game right now. Okay, and I guess let's just use this. Why don't we start with you, Asmon? Then we can. I want this to be more of a free format. Talk about whatever the fuck you guys want to talk about. I don't want to talk too much, but why don't we start with just, I guess, since you're not here for a long time, what was your experience starting out playing the game?
I mean, the thing is with me is like I can talk about like what I liked and what I didn't like about the game. The difference is that like with me, obviously like I did whaling shit at the beginning. So like a lot of the pain points and like problems that people had, things like a lot of alts, etc., and a lot of the things that are really burning people out, I actually didn't have to deal with those. So to me, like the different struggles that like a lot of the players had, I didn't really deal with them as much, but I played the game a lot until Belshazzar came out, and I was like off and on. Like I would say like by the time Clown came out, Cuckle Saintone, I was playing like maybe once or twice a week. And like my main goal, like whenever I first started playing the game, was to like get all the adventure journals done and like get like that golden fucking horse because I just really wanted it. So after I beat that one and I got it, I was like, okay, well now what am I going to do with my life?
That is insane that you got that horse, by the way.
I mean, fuck, you just do it.
I don't think people were expecting you to do that on your off time.
Yep, at fucking 6 months. I told people it'd be 6 months. It was 6 months. I got it. And I didn't even try to go that hard on it. I could have got it even earlier. But no, I did. And I did the whole thing. I really had fun. Like, I love the game. And I think that, like, really is how many of y'all played Diablo 4?
Yep.
Yeah, everybody's played Diablo 4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Lost Ark shits on Diablo 4 in terms of bosses. Like, and it's not even remotely close.
Yeah.
There are no bosses. There's one. There's Lilith.
There's one boss, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a reskin of the same exact thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's like, I think that a lot of people, like, there's been, like, criticism a lot that, like, people just want to see the game die and shit. I really think it's the opposite. I think people really want to see it succeed. Because, like, for me, like, I played it a lot. Like, I got into Belshazzar. I played that for a while. But the reason why I really kind of stopped is because, like, every week we would do Belshazzar. It was, like, the same thing with, like, people that get killed. And sometimes, like, look, that person was me. Like, I would fuck up. But it's like you have a mistake, and then, like, now you've got to do the whole thing over again. And, like, I only did it 1 time a week. You got people doing it 6 times a week. That's exhausting. And so that's what kind of made me like kind of not even really move away from the game, but just like, you know, play it less and just like take breaks.
I'm really curious something because, you know, I played World of Warcraft a long time ago. I played 15 years ago. I stopped right before the Outlands expansion. But I do distinctly remember, you know, MC and all that kind of stuff. These 40-mans, if you died, it really wasn't that big of a deal. Someone could just res you. Is rating still lower pressure like that today in World of Warcraft?
So I'm gonna say something that might get me a little bit in trouble, but when do you guys think that WoW actually got hard with the PvE content? When was the first like big step up in difficulty?
I remember, fuck, dude. I mean, to be honest, the raid that I just remember like where people were really mad, and there's probably a lot of them, but the one that I remember implementing those types of Lost Ark mechanics was Kill Jaden. You remember was it Kill Jaden in Legion where it had like one person could fucking wipe the whole raid?
It wasn't just Kill Jaden. There was like 3 other bosses in that same raid.
That raid specifically, I remember.
Well, you know, I would say the first step up in difficulty is Ulduar. And I think that it is no coincidence that people started getting hyped up about classic World of Warcraft at the same time that they released Ulduar, because that shit was way harder. And it was a massive step up in difficulty. And I think that, like, you're totally right. back in the day in Molten Core, in Vanilla WoW, etc. Like if you had somebody die, like, you know, it wasn't good. And like, you know, there were times somebody could wipe the raid, like even in Classic WoW. But for the most part, like if you had 20 people that were good and 20 people that were like bad, really, I mean, it would be okay. But like now it's like everybody just has to be on point all the time. And if one mistake happens, then you know, everybody gets punished for it. You got to start over again. And it just creates like, I think that's what creates gatekeeping in WoW and Lost Ark.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It does breed, like, it makes people judge each other. And you start getting really selective with who you're playing with. And yeah, I don't know. I think I've just been playing Lost Ark for so long at this point that I've gotten so used to this concept where, like, yes, one person could screw things up, and Lost Ark raids are so small form factor, but there's definitely people who are getting pretty tired of that because I in general, what I noticed is that more people are willing to try out MMOs more than ever before. Even though MMOs come out really few and far between. What I immediately noticed with Lost Ark was it was their first MMO. And the way that people react to these kinds of cooperative factors where they're playing with a lot of people at the same time and they judge each other, I think that really ends up defining what your game's community ultimately becomes as a result of that.
I think that's true. And it's like, it makes sense, right? Because of course people are going to, like, if you make it more punishing to have somebody who is unskilled or who makes mistakes, well, people aren't going to want to have people that were unskilled or make mistakes even more than normal. Because if they do, then they get punished for it. It's really common sense.
The thing is like, I was talking about it a little bit earlier. We were talking about, you know, in Lost Ark, there really isn't anything. You did your collection stuff, right? And I think everyone in this call, except me, has done their Ignia tokens. I haven't done any of them because I just like to do the raids. But for a lot of people, I feel that they probably prefer to do other stuff. Like if you, we talked about this, if you go to another game and you ask them, hey, do you raid in WoW? Hey, do you raid in Final Fantasy? Hey, do you raid in Guild Wars? I don't know about Guild Wars, but whatever, right? Like if you ask them, hey, do you raid in this game? There's going to be people that say no. If you ask people, hey, do you raid in Lost Ark? Everybody says yes, because that's really what the game is. That's it.
It's the only end game.
Right. And so I think that's a problem because it pushes people into the raids and that's all they can really do. And then you're going to just right out the gate experience that gatekeeping. So I think that's one problem. The second problem, though, is that everyone always references Vultan, and Vultan's a really fun raid. It's not my favorite raid. I like Clown a little bit more or whatever, but it's a raid where there's not as much punishment, except for Gate 1. There's not as much punishment in the raid.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Like as the game expands, it makes sense to add more complex raids, but then as you do that, it's the same thing in WoW where it starts to get to a point where you try to add in more mechanics, add in more mechanics, and add in more mechanics, and it makes it eventually like, well, I don't want to bring... It sucks dick when one guy wipes your entire raid. It doesn't feel good, and I don't know, what's the balance? Like, do you focus on having really like cool, mechanically heavy raids to try to satisfy that more hardcore audience, or do you focus on raids that like anyone can participate in at the risk of just making it a little too casual friendly, or is there a middle ground?
Well, I mean, I think an interesting question, you know, to like respond to that is like, when was Lost Ark the most popular in Korea? Because like whenever the game was coming to the West, one of the biggest advertisements for the game was Korean players' enthusiasm for the game.
Yeah. It had to do, yeah, it was around the time when, you know, there was just like an insane amount of raids. I still remember a bunch of people before the game came out in the West reacted to that one video that I put out, which was the hardest raiding in Lost Ark. I think raiding is like a pretty big point, and again, like I said, for many people, it's their first MMO. So when people get really doomer about it and they think about what game they want to go into next, I was streaming Blue Protocol the other day. People were just ragging on the combat, and as much as people like shit on Lost Ark, they shit on other games' combat systems even more, and then they just don't know where to go because we don't exactly have a lot of options as MMO
Yeah.
gamers, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
The thing is I think you know, there's a lot of like frustration going into this low on, right? And I think I watched a little bit of your call with Zeal's Asmon too, and
Mhm.
I wasn't there to watch the stream. It was like 3 in the fucking morning or something, and I kind of knew it was
6.
yeah 6 on the
Yeah.
East Coast, yeah. So I knew it was gonna be like this apology based thing where it's like whatever. Um, but after this, it's kind of opened up this cesspool of just everybody like ragging on like everything about the game. And I think the biggest issue right now is if as a Western player, I think most of us just want less dailies. That's all that we want. But then when I go to like your stream, Benji, you're ultra mad because I just think of that emote, but you're mad because you're having to wait 7 months for a fucking 7 months for a raid, you know? And like,
Right.
so I guess my question is to you guys. I have a different take on this whole thing, but what is it like playing in Korea and waiting 7 months between each raid tier?
Very repetitive. I mean, imagine doing Braille. We've been doing Braille for um 2 years now almost, right? On our alts as well. And it's just and the Kayangil came out. They said they're gonna increase the gold on it, so we thought we would be able to drop Braille for Kayangil, which would be a lot more easier and casual. But they gave us gold, but it was like half of what you would earn in Braille, so we couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
So it was just getting really repetitive, and people just want, new content. Like, we don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. And what I think in Luan, what people were most worried about was that the cadence. It looked like they gave us like a vibe that this is going to be the way it is from now on. Like the slow cadence every 7 months or 6 months, maybe one Legion raid and then an Abyssal raid in 1 year. So that's what
Mm.
people were mostly worried about in the long. So it
And
just gets really repetitive, and we want new things.
You know
am I-
what's crazy though? Coming from like I've played so many MMOs growing up, and
Mm.
I'm just so used to the idea that like 6 months is like a
Yeah.
normal amount of time for a new raid to come out. But like Albert, you were playing during during like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
golden age
Played
of
a lot of
Lost Ark.
MMOs.
You remember, but you remember with Lost Ark, Vulcan, Vicus, Clown, Brel, they were like 2 months apart from each
Yeah,
other.
they were 1 or 2 months apart. So I came.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you came in around this time, right, with your friends.
Yeah. I came around this time for Bro, so we were playing like you were so motivated to play to catch up to the latest raid, right?
Right. Talk about your experience real fast when you started playing the game, because you started during all that raid stuff. Progression wasn't the easiest yet at this point. They didn't implement a lot of the features yet that made honing easier. So you went through the process. Some of you and your friends wailed a little bit. Some of you didn't. But what was it like going through Vulcan, Vicus, Clown, Brel in that like 8-month period?
So that's when like most of the streamers just got into the game, and then the streamers just gather up and then just do try parties for Valton and stuff. We take like 10 hours each, like Valton 10 hours, like Vicus 10 hours, and Clown just takes like 10 hours. Those kind of days where everyone just has fun and everything. The progression itself, and the progression, you couldn't progress unless you swipe. That was one thing too. If I wanted to get to my main character, the bro, I had to swipe. But that's how Korean games work. If you want to push faster, you have to pay. That's how it works. It's pay to progress. And if I wanted to go to bro faster than others, within the time being, that's what I needed to do. And then when bro was there, we kept playing bro, and then my ults kept getting to bro level, and then we just into like have this big ass roster where it just generates gold itself, right? And then for 1 year, like I remember the Stoopzz Remember, you always say that every time you tune, I'm always in Braille, right? That's because I have six characters every time doing 1/6. And when you keep doing that, you actually did not progress at all because the amount of gold that you make, you spend it on something else. You spend it on like your 7th ult or something, right? And when you just keep on playing for a year, you don't know what eye level Khan's gonna be. You don't know when Kangyo came out. Kangyo was on top of those 3 raids, so the number of hours needed to play was like 9+ a day, right? Just to keep everything done. This is like not even including Guardians and daily, so
Yeah,
it decreased a little bit.
So
Yeah,
when you started the game, it started off as a little bit casual, but before you knew it, you
exactly.
had like this insane
Yeah,
roster that was doing a
yeah,
bunch of things,
It's
and then
exactly.
every couple months you had a new raid. Well, coming from like other games before this, I'm so
Uh-huh.
used to the idea that like 6-7 months for like a new raid, that's that's actually not an outrageous thing. That's
It's not. It's
perfectly
not.
That's
normal.
pretty good. Yeah.
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 It's good.
Mm.
It's good.
So I thought about this a lot, right? And so what I've kind of realized though is there's two things there. Well, first there's three things I want to talk about. The first thing is that they promised now from this stream that they're going to continue the pacing of, they said they're going to go back to the old raid schedule of releasing raids more consistently, which I don't know how the fuck they're going to achieve that. The second thing though is, when you because we talked about this a lot, Saint, when I came from WoW to Lost Ark, it was a lot more casual friendly when I was playing. And I was talking to you, I'm like, yeah, dude, we like, you would tell me that it would take you, a dry spell was like 3 months, 4 months, right? And then it obviously became 7 months, right? But the thing that I realized is that in WoW, when you're doing it, it does take 6-7 months for a new raid tier. But in that raid, you gear up through the raid, and then you're done. And you deadass can log off
Yeah.
and then come back for the next raid tier. And so I want to talk about tier 4 a little bit here, but there is no, in Lost Ark, because the next item level requires you to play through till the next tier. Like you have to be gearing as it goes on, right? Like it's
Or
not like
spending money.
or spending money, right? Like there's
spend
no
money, yeah.
there's no way, like you're not gonna do Brel Shaws, like get the Brel gear, and that gear that you get that takes you 6 weeks to farm or whatever, 4 weeks to farm, you can't log off then. You gotta now hone that up. And so that's what I'm kind of getting at. What I'm realizing is that if you're Benji and it becomes repetitive, that's because you're farming to do a con after Brel, right? And so you're gonna have to be playing and grinding out those materials after you get the set to then make it to a con. So although it's 7 months of waiting, you're not actually able to wait. You're not able to log off and say, all right, I'll come back for the Econ update. They're going to expect you to log into the game and then do those repetitive dailies and those same raids over and over and over again, because you're going to need that to get to that raid tier rather than just getting the gear from the raid. Does that make any sense?
Or not
Yeah.
able
Yeah,
to go, or
but
not
it's
able to go at
not.
all.
Isn't that like? Isn't that also because Lost Ark isn't like based on seasons? Because aren't
Also, too,
a
yeah.
lot of the other MMOs like based on seasons, and that's like those kind of raids kind of come out like 6 and 7 months, every 6 and 7 months, right? DLCs or
Most other
seasons,
MMOs are expansion based. So
right?
there's a long period of time, then an expansion comes out, and then that within that expansion they have like a roadmap of raids that they're releasing. You get your gear, you just do the raid.
Right. So you don't have to keep playing the game for those games, right?
Well, you do have to get the
Exactly.
gear, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's a bit of give and take. It's not like you complete the raid once, but there's like a very clear end point, and
Yeah.
that end point, at least like for I would say Final Fantasy and WoW, to the best of my understanding, is relatively achievable. It's not like this is some impossible thing that you can't do.
Yeah.
Mm.
The
So,
crazy
yeah.
thing is, I think in the 2021 low on winter, Gold River was still on the project at this point, and he actually said something which, at the time of, it was a very endearing message. This was during the time where this was right after Hard Brel came out in Korea. And there was like a lot of controversies associated with player burnout because the raids were coming out too fast at that point, which sounds like a wild concept, but Smilegate had to apologize because they were making raids too fast because players were upset about that. So during that low on winter, Gold River said, this next year we're going to work on expanding the game and creating more content depth, and we're going to slow down on raids a little bit. For the players that are playing this game as a raid game, you might get bored, and so what I recommend to you is that you just go play something else in the meantime, which is what Yoshi P said for his
About
players
Final
in Final
Fantasy.
Fantasy. Yeah, because that game is structured. At the time of it was very endearing, but we look back in retrospect now and we realize, as nice of a sentiment as it was, you can't actually do that, because if you go play something else and come back, well, progression is essentially time gated unless you swipe. So the message actually didn't really make much sense looking back now.
That's so bitch
Yeah.
lied, bro.
So this is talking about existing players, right? As in unprogressing, not like new players, correct? Because they're two different categories. Before talking about it, the thing is, this is the same case for any Korean games. Is let's say I take a break, unless you're like, let's say Zeus, because he's already max eye level, right? Let's say you're progressing, let's say F2P, like you're grinding a lot of hours into it. If I take a break right now, and before Theomine comes out, let's say a week before, I can't go. That's the truth of the Korean MMOs, because of power inflation, right? Because when you progress and when people get stronger, they have the greed of keeping whatever they have forever. Like, they don't want to lose it, right? And they always fight for that. So when a new player comes in, there's this big walls to climb, and all they do is just like going through walls and walls and walls and walls and stuff. Makes them not want to do it. This is including me, where if I take a break for like a month and I come back, there's no other options than swiping, because I can't catch up, because I didn't do Chaos Dungeon for like 2 weeks, because the reward that you get it is so high. And that's also because since I'm this much stronger, I should be this much stronger than this bozo because I just grinded, right? Like, these kind of thought process is like it's in there, like it's in there, and it's like a culture there too.
On that topic, though, during the event, not event, live stream yesterday, they mentioned Thamine's item level. For the people who didn't get to watch it in the audience, normal mode Thamine's going to release on September 13th in Korea. Normal mode is 1610 and hard mode is 1630. That sounds really high, but actually that's plus 17 for normal mode and plus 21 for hard
21,
mode,
yeah.
which is lower than what previous raids, Akan and Belshazzar, actually required to enter on day one. We actually think that originally this was higher, but they might have lowered it to make it more accessible and for more people to be potentially appeased, because less
To access the new vertical stuff.
yeah, either
there's a
less
lot of
grinding or
people.
less swiping to enter it.
I think
it's
there's a
also-
lot of people in A that's already ready for Thermite normal. Almost.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
Here's the thing though. I was talking about this before, and so I know it's a really hot topic in our community, and I know you were talking about it a bit, Asmon, too. I think in your video or something, but I really think that they should do with the way that this game scales. I really feel that they should do a reset of the game, a tier reset.
Oh, reset's coming. Reset is coming.
Oh, they have to, because it's just there's so much, like somebody that has like so you have like you have gems, you have tripods, you have cards, which are the huge one, and then you also have, of course, gear, and then you have leveling up your sets. Like, holy shit, like doing this just starting off as a new player, this is gonna take months of time. Like, how long does it take to get Light of Salvation, even whenever you do whale? It's insane. And so if you don't even have Light of Salvation 18, I was asking people in my chat, there's a lot of people that just don't get invited if they don't have that.
Yeah.
The thing is too, though, is so in our version we're getting a lot of new player friendly changes, right? And that's great because they're giving you a lot of shit to get caught up easily. But
Yeah.
the reason why too, I think they should reset the game, is because it's going to be 8 raids within a single tier, right? And so let's say I gave somebody full level 10 gems, full 5x3 or 5x3 plus 1, like full engravings, and level 30 cards, but they're roster level 10, meaning that you just know that person's new. I feel like people still aren't going to invite them, because you can give people all of the gear in the world, but what they can't get is the knowledge of the raid. And if you're basing your invite off other people, whether they're going to decide to invite you or not, and if they know you're a new player, no matter what your gear is, you're still going to get gate kept because there's someone that has all of that gear plus has the achievements and the title, etc. Right? And so I think we need a knowledge reset of the raids, like letting people start on an equal footing of like learning the raids again together. But to expect a new player to try to climb through the game to learn 8 raids, yeah, that sounds like a lot of content, a lot of fun, but you're asking a lot of a new player to hop into a game, overcome all of the gearing difficulties, but most importantly, overcoming all of the knowledge difficulties. The issue is, though, is people don't want to let go of their shit.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of interesting, but when I thought about it more, it kind of made sense. There's a surprisingly large amount of people that are genuinely free to play that are somewhat adverse to the idea of a reset because they are working really hard in the current tier that if they get everything reset, it feels really bad. Whereas, someone like me who's a whale, I'll just whale again. And I thought that was pretty interesting, first of all, but something that's like not really well known. Okay, so a few years ago, Smilegate went to the Russian service, and because at the time they were really neglecting the Russian service, they still are, but they wanted to do something for Russian players. So what they did was they asked the people who were publishing the game in Russia, Mail.ru, to aggregate questions together and to send them over to Gold River, and then he would answer them in a private interview. So there's an article. I don't have the link on hand, but not many people actually got to read the article, but it was really fascinating because this is like a 2-year-old article, and they talk about tier 4 and season 3 in this article and what their expectations are. And what they talked about was whenever the game is ready to move forward to tier 4 in the future, it would not be a full power wipe, like going from tier 2 to tier 3 for that reason. And so they didn't have like exact details, but they talked about how going from tier 2 to tier 3 affected, Giga Whales in season 1. The difference is when we go from tier 3 to tier 4, it doesn't just affect the whales. It actually affects hardworking, grinding players as well this time, and they don't want people to lose as much power. But I do agree 100% there has to be a reset at some point because the verticality of the game progression right now is way too steep. And I was really happy to hear that FameMine doesn't actually give it's not a soft reset. It's not a new set of gear. Because if I had to hone another set of gear, I would not have a very pleasant time.
So what does FameMine do?
Probably not
What does it
do
give you?
So they're adding a new system called Gear Transcendence. It looks like Minesweeper. We have no idea what it actually entails, but it just makes you stronger. So since I don't think you've been following the game for the past few months, but in Korea they recently released a system called Elixirs. And Elixirs were released as a answer to players in Korea who wanted a new system of vertical progression that wasn't honing because people fucking hate honing. It's so expensive and the returns on power are so little. So they released this new system called Elixirs, and Elixirs were actually met relatively well because it wasn't that expensive. And by not expensive, I mean it'll run you in the ballpark of 200,000 to 500,000 gold. And that sounds like a lot, but the return is 20 to 30% more damage, which is an insane amount for that cost. That is like ridiculous efficiency. So people liked it and they found it a lot more fun. It's not fun to watch Korean streamers do it because there's a lot of reading and you can't read Korean. So it's just like, what the hell is this? Yeah. But when Western players get it, it's actually quite fun to do. So people generally liked that. So they talked about FameMine. They're adding another system that's different from honing. It's just a brand new system altogether. And you're supposed to get materials from the FameMine raid itself in order to progress it. And what I'm hoping is that it, much like Elixirs, it's not pay to win. I hope that, because I don't want more systems that use gold.
Yeah. Well, let me just to get on the topic again, though. Do you guys think a reset? Let's say we entertain a full reset, okay? Right. So you tell your homie, "Yo, man, like it's Lost Ark season 3. We're all starting from ground zero." Maybe you keep some shit, whatever. But like you can hop into the game and we'll all be together playing and learning the raids and start. Is that it? But obviously, there's gonna be people that are mad. Like even as I'm saying this, just some guy ultra mad, like really pissed off, like all the shit I worked for, right?
Yeah.
Or spent. Like some guy told me, what about all the money I spent? And I told him like, well, bro, if you put your money into a game thinking you're getting a return on your investment, that was a stupid investment. But
I mean, Shroud spent 10K to get to Argos.
so there's two things there. Yeah. Do you think it's a net positive or a net negative? What do you guys
net
think?
Negative for
I think it's a
Korea
net
for
positive.
sure,
It's a positive for sure.
I think positive.
but it's net negative here. There's
think
no
so?
way that will. There's no way people will agree of resets. It's because people digital assets like game assets here, they don't think it's game. None of the people here thinks it's game assets because their goal is to sell gold and get real money.
you
And
don't
if
think
their
it-
some of them-
characters,
some of them.
I don't
not
think
everyone.
everybody's goal is that. Yeah.
Yeah. Not everyone.
that's what I thought too. Maybe like 4 months ago, I was a little bit more positive, but the number of like this, I think me and Zio had like the same thing because we see the same thing. Like you kind of look at the Discord people trading and stuff. Basically, what I can do is let's say I just do the raid on all the 6 characters and get like $200 to $300 a week, right? And if you do that, that's like a good restaurant meal or something, or you can buy something for fun or something like that. And since you don't want to progress, you park your characters at the minimal, make more accounts, and make more of that, right? So that's why those guys, whoever heard about like the Makoko Express or etc. whatever, they don't like any of those because they're taking their potential funds away.
But don't you?
It's a big thing. Like the reason why they don't the culture's different. And here, I thought it was the minimal stuff, but it's actually like a lot more than you think. That's why I'm like mentioning it here.
But don't you think don't you think that's because that's the current existing audience? Like, don't you think it would be a net positive for like all of the people that had tried the game at one point?
I want the reset
I'm
for
not
sure.
I'm not saying you don't want it, but I just mean if you
Yeah.
look at the grand scale of things,
Dude,
like
games, MMOs do power resets. They do them for the very reason that you're talking about, Stoopzz. The difference is in Lost Ark, the last power reset was like 3 years ago, and the next expected one is like in a year from now. 3 to 4 years for a power reset, I think, is perfectly reasonable when other games will do it in 1 year. And Lost Ark is a very vertical progression game, so obviously more effort is going into it in that time. But I think people are being unreasonable if they can't live with a power reset once in like 3-4 years. I mean, come on.
I mean, there's this game called Lineage.
yeah.
Right.
Well, here's the thing though. If we look at other MMORPGs, it's like if we don't, you look at like WoW, right? And it's a Korean MMO. But let's look at WoW, right? That gives people a chance to hop into the game every 2 years, right? I guess that's why Benji was saying seasonal. Okay, but in Lost Ark, like for example, you mentioned fucking Shroud spent $7,000 to get to Argos. It's not like your progress in this game retains value other than cards, which we all agree are terrible anyway, or gems, which again a lot of people think they should be like just shared across all your characters, but like you're already, it's not like it maintains value. Like it's not like we're not resetting anyway. Like if you don't play the game for 3 months, like where did that hard work even go? Like if Foz doesn't play if the game makes it so you have to log in all the time, then how does that actually show that like you're getting anything out of your time? It doesn't respect your time, right? Because like the time that you invested is worth nothing after 3 months. And when a new raid drops, no, but but hear me out. If we're having to refarm 15 eye levels every raid tier, how is that not a reset anyway? All it is just makes sure the new person can't catch to you. But if you have to re-hone your gear every tier, what's the difference of you re-honing your gear starting at whatever like a base eye level that everyone starts with versus you starting at fucking? It's not
you have more resources.
It's basically a head start over a new player. Yeah.
It's just a head
start.
Yeah.
And then when you go ahead, those guys are gonna bust the new player and make more gold.
Yeah. I'm all for a full reset. I'm just saying when I think of the monetary value of the time or money that I put in the game depreciating over time, I feel like that would just stress me the fuck out. Like I'm not afraid to say it. I think over the past 5 years now, I've put about 40 grand into this game, which is a lot of money. But if I were to RMT my account hypothetically, it would be worth less than 10 grand. Like no one would buy it for more than 10 grand. So thinking that I spent 40 and I would only get back 10,
This fucking
like
scares me.
that would stress me the fuck out. So I try not to think about it too much.
But now, but here's the thing. Here's the thing, Saint. Let's say you sell the account. People, let's say you buy 5 of those, and then you just do the weekly raids all day, and then you sell the gold. That's the thing.
I know a guy who made,
Yeah.
I think, 5 grand a month from selling gold. He turned Lost Ark into his job, and that's
His
all he
job,
did.
yes.
But like,
And
it sounds
and this
crazy,
thing is
but
so bad.
Look, I still play video games for enjoyment. Okay,
Hey, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. If you say,
that's too much even for me.
I just do it for the new raid experience for Lost Ark because the raids are so good.
What happened to
It's
playing games?
fun.
What happened to playing games for fun? What is all this
You don't take-
fucking?
What
you
is
don't take
fun?
games. You don't
Okay,
take
this is-
games
is-
seriously, man.
This
What
is
is
what
all
I
this
was
shit
seriously.
though, bro? This is
I
insane.
grind daily. In order for the new raid experience, I want to be ready, right? When the new raid comes out.
Mm.
So I want the new raids to come out as soon as possible. That's why. Like I don't want to be doing this for 6 months, 7 months, waiting for the new raid. I just want the next raid to come out as soon as possible. That's
Oh, yo, I also have something interesting. So check this out. So Stoopzz, let's say you play a new game.
Yeah.
Let's say you want to play. You've been playing Maple Story, right? A little
Yeah.
bit. I saw you. So when you're thinking of starting Maple Story in Korea, right? You know what the new players ask?
What?
Instead of, oh, it's like, you'd be thinking something like, oh, what kind of raids are there? What kind of level, etc. stuff, right?
what kind of class do I
Instead,
have to
all
play?
swipe that out. What is the return on investment if I start Maple Story right now?
Oh my god.
That is the most asked question for newbies.
Probably no
What
way.
is my return
I thought
on
it would be like
investment?
how much do I have to I thought it'd be like how much do I have to or how much do I have to swipe in
Yeah, how
order
much
to
have
get
to
to the end
swipe?
raid?
Like, how much do I get back for that?
You know what Maple Story has? Maple Story has a reboot server, which is a non-pay-to-win server, and 70% of the player base plays that in the West.
Yeah.
A non-pay-to-win.
Yeah.
Korean people didn't even know the reboot server existed.
Existed.
They've had reboot for so long, and then there was a huge ass controversy because someone one day in the Korean server was like, "Hey, what's this over here?" And they saw the
Yeah.
reboot server, and they were like, "Wait a second, these guys are making the same progress as me, and they're not spending a penny."
Exactly, the
People
reboot server
freaked the
stuff.
hell out.
Yes.
I still can't
Yes.
believe a dude who spent $3 million in Maple Story decided to boycott the game by switching over to reboot server and like, I'm boycotting your game. How dare you make me spend $3 million in your game? I'm gonna boycott by playing your game.
I cannot even imagine that. That sounds just absolutely insane.
Can you
No,
imagine
No,
spending
not
can you
not
imagine spending
everyone's
a
like
mil-
that. Very few people.
But can
Not
you imagine
everyone's
spending
like
$1
that.
million on a video game? That's fucking insane. It's
That's too
actually
much, man.
Everything
I can't
about
even
this is
spend
ridiculous.
1,000, man. That's too much.
okay.
Too much.
Let's talk about those 3 guys for a little bit. Asmon, what was it like? I know you didn't understand it, but what did you get away from talking with Zeals, and what do you? I kind of wanted just to ask you because I know we had Ian, right? Remember Ian as well,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I know Ian.
And so
Wait, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just for a moment, because I'm so curious. Asmon,
Yeah.
do you know any of their names or aliases? Those 3 guys.
No.
There you have it.
No idea.
Well, why
Apparently
would he?
they've
Why
been
would
on-
he know that? I talked to you and I asked you if you knew their name, and you didn't know their name either.
I was just curious what it's like from someone who follows
Why
the game
the
a little
fuck
bit
would you know
less. Yeah,
No one
I just
knows their
wanted to know.
names.
I just wanted
No.
I
No idea.
You know, for me, I just recently learned their names because so many people are talking shit about them right
Yeah.
now. I just recently learned their names because there's so many people mentioning their names and saying like they need to improve this, they need to improve this.
Let me.
know their names.
We had this guy named Ian.
Jae-hak.
We had this guy named Ian in WoW, okay? And everybody shit all over Ian all the time, right? And that can't really be a fun job. And part of me thinks that we had Gold River, that he didn't like, it's probably too much stress being in that position. So now they have three guys, but they're three developers. It's the combat and raid designer, the story guy, and the systems guy. But I guess what did Zeals tell you about those three guys? And I guess maybe could you chime in on what you like? Do you think
So
it's
basically,
yeah?
like,
Go for it.
yeah, what he said is like this is their third Loa on, and the players kept making excuses for them in Korea because at first they were new, but like now this is the time where everybody kind of has lost their patience because they feel like at this point things should have already improved from where they're at. So now everybody is basically pissed off at him, and honestly, like. I think that having a person like Gold River is super important. Like WoW used to have that. Final Fantasy does have that with Yoshi P. And the games that don't have that, sometimes they're very disconnected. And he also told me a lot about kind of what we were just talking about how people in Korea, a lot of what they do is they spend their time playing the game to make money off of it. So it's weird that you have like a interest group that's very vocal about the direction of the game that is trying to make it as inconvenient and hard for new players to play, because the harder it is to play the game, the more money they're going to make. And I think that's a big problem.
But I feel like that's the reason, because the rest of them all fucking left. You know what I mean? Like, why would you, like, you're just stuck with this fucking this rat crew that just fucking wants to make a bunch of money.
Rat crew.
You know, they don't really care.
Yeah.
I feel like,
they're all rat jamming, man.
I feel like
Any raids, guys?
Any catering to those people, I think makes no sense.
Well, it's parasitic in nature, because like what they do is they're the worse the game is, the better they are.
Yeah.
And that's what's bad.
But that's over here too, man. I feel like it's a lot of it's the same thing about the reset thing. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I do feel like the way the game is structured, it makes everyone think about everything as an investment. And maybe that's MMORPGs in nature, but I feel like that is a parasitic behavior. There's a lot of people that don't want to lose their progress.
Plus there's a lot of ego and a lot of superior things where they get upset if they get threatened to get taken away.
Yeah. Going back though, those three guys, just for people's understanding, I know it seems that they just like elected three random people, but these three guys actually have been working on the game for varying amounts of years. I think one was with the company for 7 years, the other has only been with the company for 2 years. But they are senior managers that they direct specific parts of the game's development. They have been working behind the scenes up until a year and a half ago, where they were, or actually 1 year ago, when they were introduced in Summer Loa of 2022 as the new people that were taking over the reins. And they had been with the company for quite a few years. And the whole situation is just very pitiable, because like, imagine you're applying for a job at this cool company and you just want to make something cool. Maybe you're a somewhat antisocial person. You're not good in front of a camera. You never really went out and talked to people that much. You just really enjoyed what you were doing. And you just wanted to work and then go home. And then a few years into your tenure working at the company, they say, okay, we're going to put you in front of a camera in front of millions of players, and you have to make them like you and the game. And by the way, the entire direction of the game now falls on your shoulders. And it's like, what do you do in that situation? It's like, that is an insane amount of burden and stress that is suddenly thrust onto your shoulders. And like, you can just tell these three guys are so awkward on stage. They just are. And a year has passed and they haven't really gotten less awkward on stage. And they're constantly second guessing their own decisions. They've made, I think, 3 decisions now where previously they were like, oh, maybe we might not do this, only to change their mind. And it's just shown that these guys were really good at their job when they were taking orders from Gold River, but without someone that's telling them what to do, I think they're clueless. I really do.
Well, what do you?
And they're also not bad people because of that. It's not like they're bad at their
Yeah.
job or anything,
not,
right?
not at all. If
No,
anything,
Yeah.
they're
not at all.
good. People praise the things like the combat. People really freaking liked the story in Rowan and Algacia. People liked
Yeah, the
the
Algacia
random
story
ass
is good.
quality of life, like Shift G. I was playing another MMO the other day. I was trying to Shift G. I was like, oh fuck, I really liked that about Lost Ark. So like the things that they
Shift
work
G.
on in Lost Ark, they do some damn good work. But when it comes to actually deciding the direction for what the game they want it to be long term, there is no vision. Under Gold River, we knew what the game was going to look like a year out because he was very clear and concise and he explained himself well and the intents of the developers really well. But these guys fumble over their own words, and I don't even know what this game's going to look out 2 months from now.
Well, here's the thing. Why don't we go around and ask everyone? I'll start with me, and then we'll go to Asmon, and then just go around this picture. But that's the thing. I feel like everyone wants something different from the game. It seems like everybody wants something different. Like if you ask the Western player base, they want something different. Like for me, what I want is I want Amazon to keep doing what they're doing. I want a reset, number one. That's the most important thing. I want the reset like as soon as fucking possible, which obviously isn't going to happen right away or anything, but I want that. But I also want them to keep treating like the Western version a little bit different than the other versions because I think that the game should be less monetized like they've been trying to do and like do a better job at like letting people get through the content a bit easier. Let them I want Lost Ark to have the end of a WoW expansion vibe where it's like everything's fuck it. Like they kind of loosen everything up. There's not as many restrictions on people and they can just kind of do with what they want with the game. Like I would love to see them cut down on some of the stuff that the dailies and things like that and just let people like focus on letting players have fun. If Asmon, you play it a lot, what would make you want to play the game just more in your free time?
More progression systems to actually work towards that aren't RNG or spending money, or also just like investing a ridiculous amount of time into it. I think also like having better solo challenges, like the WoW used to have the Mage Tower challenge. Like if I got something really cool for being able to kill Procol hard mode and Trixion, I think that'd be awesome, right? Just like little things like that. And I think more solo incentives for players to like rank themselves with. And also, you know, like in terms of doing raids, like I don't want to do raids that are like massively punishing that waste a tremendous amount of time whenever one person does them wrong. Because like whenever that happens to me, like I always think to myself, I'm like, okay, how much time am I wasting doing this? What else could I be doing with my time instead of this? And like you start making those valuations.
Yeah.
I think that's really kind of what kind of burns me out is like having to deal with things that are like ultra punishing in a way that just is like, I mean, really it was just as rewarding as Vaulton was at the time, but now you have to work 5 times as hard for it. And
Yeah.
I find that to be kind of problematic. Like I respect that like people want to have difficult content. That's okay. But one thing that happened with WoW is the fact that like the really, really serious players for WoW are the ones that are obviously going to be talking to the devs the most and giving feedback to the devs the most because they're the ones that are going to be interacting with them, etc. And what ended up happening is that the raids just got harder and harder and harder. And you see the participation levels for the raids going down tremendously. And Blizzard has tried to scale some of that back and like make the raids easier. And those same players, you know, were complaining that the world first race only took a week or something like that, and they're mad that it didn't take longer. So it's like you have this like extremely tiny minority group of players that are trying to ask for things for the game that are actually in the game's worst interest. And I think that's what's kind of happened with Lost Ark too. And so like stop catering to players like that. Just try to make the game fun to play.
That's a huge point because like what I talk to my chat about is like, you know how Lost Ark is every MMO that even has a modicum of success, they do at least one thing that is better than other MMOs. And for Lost Ark, it's the combat, because the only other MMO that comes to mind that has insane combat is BDO, but BDO doesn't have like raiding endgame. And so like Lost Ark gets to stand out in that regard. And then, you know, we talk about a game like Final Fantasy, and then when I ask my chat which game has better combat, Final Fantasy or Lost Ark, nobody will tell me that it's Final Fantasy. When we're talking about like in like raids and regularly putting out raids, Final Fantasy appeases their super hardcore endgame crowd by putting out like one ultimate a year, and then they smartly put their resources towards making the game more robust for a larger audience of maybe more casual players, but they just occasionally throw a bone out to hardcore raiders. And while one game has arguably better combat and a more frequent raiding experience, frequent as in like regularly adding in new raids and whatnot, one of these games is a lot more successful than the other.
Yeah.
Well, I think also the reason is because like the ultimate raids don't give you gear that you use. They just give you a transmog item. It's the same as like the hell mode. I mean, like we kind of have that with hell mode or inferno mode, is that like you just get a title, but the problem is that you have like the same punishment level of like those hard raids in just like the hard mode and the normal mode raids and things like Belshazzar and even the clown raid.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah, I
that's what
agree.
the issue is.
They shouldn't lock progression behind super difficult tasks, right? They should, and I think they should give like a fucking glow or something. I don't know, like a stinky title, and then everyone makes fun of the title, Addicted to Floor, Demon's Floor. I don't.
Well,
maybe,
it's all vanity stuff, but the thing that you said before, Stoopzz, is actually the thing that I agree with most currently, which is they should offer more avenues of progression. I think
Yeah.
the fact that only raiding being the only source of gear progression is not healthy for Lost Ark. It can be the source of the best gear. I see no issue with that, but there should be options for people who do solo content, who do PvP, who do life skills, to at least make some progress towards their gear, and then maybe later on, like maybe they can use that gear to help them clear raids, and then they can get into raiding, and then they can get the best gear from raiding. But like just more options, I think, would appeal to a larger audience of people that
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
certain amounts of
Yeah.
stress when it comes to their progression.
also focusing on the raids too so much, it's like then that's then you have to make all these alts, and the alts a lot of people don't like having. You want to have more main content, and then you're rerunning
Yeah.
the same raid 15 times. I mean, if you do a raid once a week, it's like special more. It lasts longer. I mean, fuck, dude. If you run a raid like 7 times the first week, it's gonna lose that like coolness factor
Yeah.
pretty quickly. What do you think? What do you want ATK out of that? What do you want them to do? What would make you more happy
So
as a player?
So I think if I go just a little bit back, it's just obviously this game has a lot of problems, right? And then whatever that's mentioned before, by Asmon, is it would be like the solo content stuff and dailies, and there's a lot of fatigue on the game itself. And problem is, let's say Theomine comes out, and this is like one of the unpopular opinion for probably the community is when Theomine comes out, I would be fine playing with an absolute new player just to do it, like the easy version or something like that. It's like I don't like how the end game content is only catered to people like me who plays the game like 12 hours a day. Like I don't think it's fair. I think it's like the best way. If there's best sell point is combat system and raids, you should at least give these guys a chance to try it out. Not throwing away some like stupid Mokoko Super Express, right? Just give them a character, right? They're like, here you go, here's a character, you can try something. But no one's gonna play with them. Who's gonna play with those guys anyway? Because like he's not gonna have cards. His roster level is gonna be low. The first thing that you would think is, oh, this guy's gonna jail me for 3 hours. I have 6 other characters to do, right? I think that's shit. I really think that's shit. And the fact that if they want for them to enjoy the game, there's gotta be like a better bridge way for people to connect with a veteran and a new player, so that you have something to work with together. But generally when we just play as a solo player, we're greedy. Like we want to make more than this other new player does, right? It's the same. Like you want to be higher level, you want to be shown that they're superior, right? Like I have more Ignia tokens, or like I have more. Like the World Tree Leaf stuff, like people get upset because the World Tree Leaf got nerfed. Like I have these World Tree Leaves and you don't, and I want to feel the superior. Like that kind of stuff should be like moved away because they have so much ego. So they should just put that down and give an actual system that helps new players to play with veteran players without any issues. And this was the most fun because when I did Valta and all this stuff, friends that are veterans, they came with like an on item level character because it's easy to access Felton, right? And then he was doing like a teaching raid thing. But can he do teaching now? No, because he's gotta run his 6 Bolt Dyke or something, right? He's busy doing his own thing. So
Also
if
punishing,
they
right?
fix that, yeah, it's always
Yeah.
punishing and all that stuff. So they don't want to play with it. So even me, I used to do teaching raids all the time, but the reason why I don't do it is, it's like I'm gonna be stuck for 3-4 hours,
Yeah.
right? 3-4 hours, and I gotta do all these other stuff, and I want to do other games too. I don't want to be stuck in Lost Ark
Should let you make
and
more
stuck
money
in a
from your
jail.
fucking main though. If you made more gold from your main, then you don't have to have all these, you don't need as many ults, right? If it is buffed,
Honestly, it's not about just gold either, because essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to make gold all this stuff because we want to progress to access new content. That's
yeah,
what I think, all
easier
right?
too, right?
But
Easier
if
too.
it's easier to do it, we would have a lot more free time. Therefore, because I'm always worried about catching up without swiping, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't want to swipe. And the thing is, if I want me to catch up to Theomine and do hard mode with everybody, you just need to play that much more, right? And and if I want to do that, I gotta optimize the time as much as I can, and that is going to be the biggest weight if some newbie comes into the raid and wipes the raid all like over and over and over and over, right? That's why I do buses all because buses take faster, and they make more. So in my case, why would I help a newbie when I can just bust and finish it faster, right? Like I think this itself is toxic, and you can't fix it right now, and there's no reason for me to not like take the initiative to do it because I'm just gonna be that nice guy, but I'll be the dumb guy compared to the other guys that are like vertically progressing much faster, right? So I think this culture itself is very very toxic, and this should be fixed systematically.
What do you think,
So
Benji?
that's like the biggest thing.
I am genuinely worried. I probably have the unpopular opinion here. Um, I'm kind of worried about now that I hear this, like newbie friendly, accessible OG players and new players playing together, this kind of stuff. I'm kind of worried because Theomine is going to be super fucking hard, is what they said. And I think the raids that are about to come out are only gonna get either harder, but they did mention and they did start working towards like the Western versions are nerfed raids, right? The Braille was nerfed because Korean people complained about all these like punishing mechanics. And the West version actually now started getting nerfs first before KR versions. Like the Vicus nerf and the Clown nerf hit the Western version first before KR. The nerf hit KR yesterday on the Wednesday update.
I think one of the reasons why that even happened, sorry to interrupt, Benji, is because it was their concurrent content. It doesn't feel like Smilegate cares to nerf old content, but since in the West it was their current endgame content and people were struggling on it, they're like, okay, we'll nerf it over there, and then we might as well sync up the nerfs in the other versions as well for cost-related reasons. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. Anyways, I think the raids are only gonna get harder from here. Well, maybe it could get a little bit easier after Theomine or Kazuros after if the next season hits after all this like card reset or soft reset or whatever.
Raid difficulty is okay as long as they do away with all these overbearing one person kills the other 7
They
mechanics.
suck dick, man. I
Yeah,
hate
I think
restarting.
I think with the newest raids, I think Akan is a little bit more carryable even if one or two people die. Um,
Yeah,
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 and Valdike too, kind
yeah.
of. Yeah, it's still so I think it's difficult. It's still difficult, but it's getting better. Like Braille's freaking hell. One person fucks up, like it wipes the whole thing, almost. But the newer race, the difficulty is still there, but they're kind of fixing all these like punishing or teamwork mechanics, kind of. They said they're working on it, so I think we'll see in Theomine. Like a lot of the things right now, we just kind of have to sit still and like kind of see. We have to wait and see like what it looks like in the future.
I
That's a
have another
point.
question for the World of Warcraft players. You guys have a difficulty in raids called LFG, and
LFR, yeah.
Yeah,
sorry, LFR. And what it was described to me from my chat was that you could literally AFK in it and pass the encounter. And what I want to know is how many people actually do LFR, and is it received as a good thing from the more casual players in World of Warcraft?
It's really kind of hard to say because like the reason why it's hard to judge whether LFR is a good thing from a casual player perspective is because the casual players that do LFR aren't talking about the game on social media, right? Like they're the ones that are just playing the game and then, they just enjoy it and then they stop playing the game whenever they don't enjoy it. So it's very hard to tell. I think that the only real bad thing about LFR is the fact that like you get gear from it and it effectively removes old content from the game because it makes it just like so much easier to get the gear from LFR versus just doing the old content. And so it removes kind of progression. But now with WoW, it's a lot different too, because like every like tier of the game is like a season. So like everybody kind of gets reset multiple times, even inside of expansions. And like, I mean, to me, that's very exhausting, but people still like that, or at least some people do. And so I think that's been a big factor. It's been very kind of. I never really liked LFR. I thought it was bad for the game, but it's like the reason why it would be bad is kind of multifaceted. It's not like easy content equals bad. It's more like kind of the effect that it has on like the greater like health of the game and like the player economy of like what people want to do.
Is
'Cause I think
LFR kind of like a would you say that it's kind of like a training mode? Do people learn mechanics from it that they take into the higher difficulties?
one thing I think is true is that players don't learn things unless they have to. So like if unless you create a reason that like a player has to learn something, they probably will never figure it out. And the thing is with LFR, they never need to figure it out because they can just get carried through the content without even having to worry about it. And I
Okay.
think that's like kind of like that's the worst of both worlds where you have super easy content that's very rewarding, but there's no sense of satisfaction because the effort is so displaced between so many different people that like it doesn't even really matter.
Okay. The reason I asked this was because one of the common suggestions that I've heard from Lost Ark players, which I'm going to preface this by saying that the very notion of it was baffling to me from like a long-term MMO player.
Yeah.
And that was they really enjoyed Practice Procol and Practice Mario, and they wanted a solo practice mode for all boss mechanics so that you could learn them on your own time and be more prepared going into the raid. To me, my perspective was that kind of takes away from the the MMO aspect of going in, trial and error and learning. But then I kind of thought about it some, and I'm still against it, but with the caveat that a lot of other games can allow you to essentially train in a lower difficulty to properly prepare you for a higher difficulty. In the case of Lost Ark, though, the game kind of practically encourages you to jump into its highest difficulty right away. So there's not really an area for you to really learn. So much so to the point, Albert, question. When you bus, have you ever had a bus where the people wanted to also play? Like they were basically
of course.
not just
course.
not just lay on the ground dead, but they were too stressed at the idea of going into a party or being stuck in a party for too long, so they basically use your bus service as like a paid experienced party. And I almost
like 3 out of 10, yeah.
yes, okay, so
Yeah,
I almost wonder if we do need more things like that, because I never really gave much thought, but there are a lot of people that deal with raid anxiety, and it actually hampers their ability to cooperate with other players really hard because they're too stressed to learn in the actual raid environment.
For example, there's a teaching bus too. We call it school bus. those are more expensive.
You charge
It's
more
fun.
for that?
I don't do
Right?
that. I don't do it,
assume
by the
so.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that because you call it a school bus.
That's
Well,
fucked up, man.
Good name for it, though.
I think that
School
MMOs are changing a lot, and like solo content is becoming more popular in MMOs. But like being able to conspicuously show off what you've accomplished inside of solo content is also very important for players. And it's kind of like it's a weird analogy, but like how many of you guys have ever seen any of the anime shows like Sword Art Online, Overlord, like Log Horizon? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting that almost all of those games or almost all of those shows are kind of solo gameplay. Like there's raids, but like the majority of it is somebody playing solo or something like that. So I think that the aesthetic of playing solo in an MMO is getting a lot more popular.
I was talking about that earlier today. I was saying that the game, I really, really, really believe that Lost Ark should have more solo, like solo raids, solo progression things. I know it sounds
Yeah.
anti MMO. I know it does, but I just
No,
think that well,
even like 15 years ago, I remember just grinding in World of Warcraft, just pulling mobs and hunting stuff. And that's that even though it's not a specific instance content, I was doing it alone. You know?
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
I think that just that what would be great is like, okay, you try to get into a raid group because like gatekeeping, I was saying, exists in every MMO. Like it's just because other people don't want to spend extra time with a new person, and it's understandable. Like you can't force people to want to teach somebody. You can try, but it usually doesn't work that well, right? They have to want to do it. So maybe you get into a learning group, or you don't get into a learning group. It doesn't work out well, but like giving them the opportunity to, okay, I didn't get in this group. I'm gonna go try to take on this boss. And it's fun, you know what I mean? Like even when I was playing D4, like it was cool that I could do things in a group, but I could also do things solo, right? And I could still progress. And I know it sounds anti MMO, but like I feel like it's still a good option, so they can stay logged in the game and stay playing rather than going, fuck it, I can't find a group, I'm done. You know what I mean? And I think just giving somebody the option to have some cool progression, let them get some of the gear, let them get some rare items, something. And that's fun, like sometimes I log on at 1 a.m. and I want to play, but I don't want to sit there in a fucking party finder, and so, and I don't like count chaos dungeons and like those boring ass dailies as that, right? I want to do something fun in my free time once in a while. I'm still down to do group activities, but solo content, I think it has a lot of value. And I think Lost Ark could do it really well because you have that Procol fight or whatever. Just have a few more activities like that. It's probably easier to design as well, I would assume.
Would it be like Final Fantasy 16 but with like Vulcan bosses, Vikiss bosses?
Yeah, something like that,
Clown
right?
bosses.
Something like that.
I'd like that. I think that'd be really cool. Like I remember whenever I first started playing, like I went through and I tried to beat like every single guardian at like the lowest item level solo, and it was really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw some of your
I do have
very upset.
I do have like 2 more topics. If you have to go, Asmon, you can leave whenever you have to go. No worries, by the way. I want to talk about like unhealthy relationships with a game. So the reason why I fucking talk about this a lot is I used to, nowadays I'm a lot more chill. Like I really just, I think it's annoying for some people because I'm always like, just quit the game, bro, if you're unhappy. And they get really mad when I say that, they get upset at me. They're like, fuck you. Like, I want to play the game. And I get that. Like, if you actually want to play the game and you enjoy playing, and you're just giving feedback, totally get it, right? It's the game you're playing. But if you're like hate fucking the game, I don't really think it's like beneficial. And if you really want the game to change, the best way to let them know, it's similar to WoW and Final Fantasy 14. And right now with those guys doing that live stream, do you think they're doing it because they feel forced to do it? People are playing MapleStory, these streamers, the Invent's on fire, everyone's super angry. And so I always say, tell people like, hey man, if you're really unhappy, quit the game. And usually I'm always fought back with like someone ultra mad or just pissed off at me. I guess what I'm getting at here, like with that, it creates a super toxic environment where like, you remember Shadowlands, right? Like as when everyone's quitting the game, everyone's super fucking unhappy. It sucks dick to be a WoW streamer. It's super doomer. And it creates this environment like where you don't even want to stream, play the game. And you may like the game, but because everyone else around you is so negative on the game, it makes your enjoyment in the game less.
It creates a
Um,
culture where like it's just everybody is shitting on the game, people hate the game. And like also I think that like Shadowlands is a great example of like what you're saying is that like with those developers, they didn't really want to be there yesterday, but they were there because they had to be. And
Mhm.
like Blizzard during Shadowlands, there were like these systems that they added into the game, and they were so adamant. They're like, we can't remove these systems. These systems are like so integral to the part of the game and like everything the game is about. And then as soon as people start quitting the game, suddenly the systems are gone. Big fucking surprise. It happened like within a month of this stuff happening. And I think that's really that's the power that the player base has, is that if people actually stop playing the game, they will change the game. Like
yeah.
it's not even a question. Of course that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they called it the ripcord. They told us that there was this
Yeah.
thing called covenant. Like, oh, they said there's a ripcord that exists, but then they said that they couldn't change the covenants. Everyone starts playing Final Fantasy 14, and like, oh, by the way, we next patch it's fucking gone. And I'm like, and you know what's crazy though? What bothers
Yeah.
me about this? I know I'm talking a lot about this, but what bothers me about it is that everyone in that community was shitting on Final Fantasy 14. They're dumpstering on, oh my, it's like in our community, it's like BDO Megalol. Like they're like laughing at these other games. And I'm like, bro, I don't know why you're shitting on these other games, because those other games, that competition, it's the same with D4 and PoE. Like that competition is what's going to make your game better, right? Because they're never going to change anything if they don't feel the pressure to. They don't give a shit that I'm yelling into the void or like going on YouTube and getting ultra mad and pissed off. Well, I've been saying that a lot, but you get my point, right? They're
Yeah.
never going to actually make those changes unless they feel that it's because the fucking email to my chat, I keep seeing it, but they're never gonna make those unless they feel like they have to. So I guess to you guys down there, is that how it is with MapleStory right now? Is MapleStory actually like garnering a lot of attention? Is that creating that level of competition in Korea? Because we in the West, there's like not really many MMOs that are being released.
Right now I see like on Lost Ark Inven, which is like a Reddit. So it's Inven is basically kind of like game Reddit kind of stuff. They have Inven for Lost Ark, MMOs, other games, MapleStory included. I see more MapleStory players coming on to Lost Ark Inven to
Yeah.
posting stuff.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
come to MapleStory.
yeah.
There's so many
That's
people.
fucking retribution, dude. After the MapleStory had like 3 scandals that led to people leaving it to Lost Ark. Now Lost Ark's
Yeah.
on fire, and they're like, well.
Well, we
I
got some
see
mushrooms
posts like,
here.
holy shit, the director fucked up. I check his ID. He's a MapleStory Andy. It turns out like I don't know,
Yeah.
man.
They
There's
even
a
asked
lot
like, would you like our director instead?
But
I'm past on wonky.
Andes are the worst though. They exist with, remember when D4 was coming out? All the Path of Exile Andes are sitting there like just shitting on D4, like +5 strength, +5 strength, like they just, it's weird. It's like they want to see
It's
this other
everywhere, dude. When we were playing Wild Hearts, I had Monster Hunter Andes come in and shitting on it because it was a Monster Hunter. When I was playing the demo for this new Souls-like game that's coming out called Lies of P, I had
Dude.
Dark Souls players come in, fucking
Good game,
shitting
though.
on it as well. I was like, this is everywhere. And then it's an anime. You'll see tribalism with movies. Obviously, a more obvious one is like sports fans. It's like people attach their identities to
Why,
these things.
though?
And get
Why
really
is-
defensive about it. It's
why is
everywhere.
it-
It's
no,
literally
Because
everywhere.
they're fucking losers.
Yeah.
That's why
Because
they do
They
it.
have nothing else better to do.
Yeah, they got nothing else going on.
Actually, one that's closer to you, Stoopzz, because I just started watching MMA recently because of you or UFC. It's like I was so curious one day because we watched one of the UFC fights, and I was curious enough to check what their subreddit was like for the UFC, and it's just these like armchair fighters sitting in with their Cheeto encrusted fingers talking about how shit a fighter is. I'm like, this guy would fucking roll you if you were in the ring with him. But like, they rally behind their favorite fighter, and it's like it's just everywhere. I don't think we can even have a discussion on tribalism because it really is something that will never go away ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you guys, and then you're free to leave, Asm, if you want. You can stay if you want to. But the last thing was, with all of this, I talked about this with Saint, and I guess I want to go around just ask everyone's opinion on this. There was I told you this, Saint. There was a podcast I watched. It's actually with Chris Kaleki. He has a podcast called Theorycraft. Okay, and he does it on Discord, and they talk about like game topics and what it's like to be a developer. And one of the topics was, right now I feel like there's just so much doom in the air with Lost Ark. Where I was like, I'm gonna play some BDO this weekend. Like I can't stand this. Like I can't stand it. It's just too much. And a lot of that gets, exacerbated. That's the right word. It's not so
Exacerbated.
weird. Yeah. Whenever I use that word, it always feels weird. But a lot of that feels exacerbated by like the game's issues, but then social media. Just like when a game is doing really well, people are hyping it the fuck up. You look at D4, right? It's like the cycle. D4 is coming out, it's getting hyped up like crazy, and then after the launch, everyone starts shitting on the game. And so I want to ask you guys, with all of this, same with Korea, you have Daju and a lot of these other streamers just shitting on Lost Ark. We have like, you go to Zeal's stream, Super Doom, or you go to ATK stream, Super Doom, or you go to my stream, it's me getting one guide every like 5 seconds. And so like, do you guys think that in this game space in general, not just Lost Ark, but gaming in general, do you think that content creators are a net negative or a net positive for the game? That's what they were debating on their show. Do they actually hype up the game, or are they also responsible for like the spiraling negative narrative surrounding the game? Like, do we do more harm to the game than good? We can start with you, Aspen, then we can go down.
I think you can't really say, right? Because there's like so many different content creators, so many different games, so many different like things that people can say. It's like, I'm sure content creators, like I remember I've heard people saying like Cyberpunk was like not as bad as the content creators made it out to be. And like, maybe that's the case, maybe it's not. I didn't really play it, so I'm not sure. But like, basically, I think it really just depends. But I do think that there are cases where content creators that are people that are, trying to like spread some sort of a message, especially because like on YouTube, it can be very popular to shit on something, right? Especially if like it's one of the things that's popular to shit on, right? Like it's a new Blizzard game. Okay, well, you got 50 jokes lined up for that immediately.
Yeah. Saint, what do you think? I think I asked you. What do you think, Saint?
Yeah. So in terms of like the initial success, because usually content creators are most often associated with the launch of a game, there's no question that a content creator does good for it. I mean, that's a tremendous reason why Lost Ark even had so many players on its launch in its first place. You had so many content creators who saw the game back in 2015 kind of spreading the word about it. I mean, I didn't even know people like Cloaksy were huge fans of Lost Ark going into it. And no one can deny that the marketability of content creators when it comes to a new game launch, it only leads to success. But that being said, the downside to it is content creators to their audiences, because sometimes their audiences don't actually play the game, and they will just automatically take on the opinion of the content creator that they watch without doing much research themselves. If the content creator, after some point in time, is negative towards the game and only has negative things to say about the game, then that will kind of, permeate through their entire community. And then those people, that is now their opinion in the game, and then they tell that to their friends as well. And I think an example of this is there's this dead subreddit. It's the MMORPG subreddit, and it's just a bunch of people that have these outdated, deprecated, or just downright wrong opinions about video games just because they heard it from someone, but they perpetuate it and they spread it. And it's like, a lot of times this comes from like a content creator, whether that's YouTube or Twitch or something like that. So long term, for the health of the game, unless the game is constantly doing good, for example, like Final Fantasy right now, in general, like, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be shitting on Lost Ark right now. And many of them don't currently play the game, but they're going to tell their audiences how they feel about it. And their audiences are going to feel the same way.
Yeah. I always think about Guild Wars 2 when we talk about MMOs that just get... I feel bad for Guild Wars 2. I've heard Guild Wars 2 makes a lot of updates. And then every time you talk about this Guild Wars 2, everyone's like, no one cares about Guild Wars 2. And I feel so bad, man, because I know that they probably made a lot of good changes, and I feel bad for Guild Wars 2.
But I feel like Guild Wars has always been living in World of Warcraft's shadow, even from even years ago.
I don't know, man. I was when I was a younger kid. I'm like, yo, Guild Wars 2 is gonna fucking kill WoW. It's gonna be sick. I was like 13 or 14. That was a fucking terrible mistake. ATK, what do you think? You know, you're always sitting there. I know you've been fucking super depressed on your stream the past, you know.
Hey man, it's like that's more of a me thing instead of like a
Okay. All right. What do you
But I
think?
mean,
What do you think?
but I
in
mean,
general?
considering the past job stuff, right? When you essay negative and positive, usually in all sorts of in terms of statistics, right? Having something is better than nothing. So when you actually have a content creator, even though
That's
there's like a
true.
bunch of negatives and stuff, they still at least have a chance to try it once instead of not even knowing what this is.
That's such a good point.
right?
Yeah.
So so when you so when you do it like in terms of like a hiring standpoint, even if this is negative or positive, whatever, it is still the amount of views and the interest that you get that you can potentially convert afterwards anyways.
It's a really good
So
point.
so unless well there has never been like a case where it actually destroys the brand, but like that's what you call like cross the line, so that you kind of like moderate that, but the data point is so low that you don't really have to worry about those. So
Unless you're Throne and Liberty right now. I don't think Throne and Liberty is getting a lot.
You're not doing too well.
I played the shit out of that game. Well, I quote unquote played a lot of that game.
dude, you got you throw it in liberty. The way you got me, bro.
People-
I
dude,
didn't
people got
expect you
so-
to say that, man.
I kept playing that game.
Jeez.
I kept playing that game like crazy. People got so mad that I was playing that game. It was insane.
Hey, I mean, but what if you weren't playing the game? No one would know about it in the first place, even
Well,
though it was.
If
Well,
we
who
didn't
knows?
play it, then everyone's impression of Throne and Liberty would be just from that Amazon trailer, and that Amazon trailer was a fucking banger. Like whoever made that trailer at Amazon, I hope they got like 10 raises, because that trailer.
There's nothing
Man.
like the game.
Yeah,
it's
nothing like the game.
it.
Listen,
They
the
actually
But that's the
crafting
goal. That's
system
the
in that
goal.
game.
That's the goal of
trailer,
marketing,
I
though.
was like,
The
that's
crafting
insane.
system
Yeah.
in
That
that
guy is
game is really
insane.
good. Are
It's
you
giving that the interest.
are you gonna play that game, Asmon? Are you gonna
Absolutely.
try it? Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. I'll
Wow.
like just complain about it the whole time while it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, dude.
He wants to just let the game play itself.
I
while
was
he's
saying
Yeah.
that's a goated stream game. I
Yeah.
don't have to do any of the boring shit. I could just read my
Exactly.
chat and just fucking laugh and,
And
make
then
jokes.
just let the you're looking at the trees grow.
I don't have to. I asked my chat if you could auto farm chaos dungeons, how many of you guys would do it? And they would
I
all
would
say
do
yes
it.
because the chaos dungeons suck, right? So
It
it's
does,
like
it does.
it's like one of those things where they put really systems, things that you don't like about a game, and then you don't have to do any of the things that you don't like about a game. And that
Yeah.
they purposely structured it that way. It's pretty interesting.
But the
Mhm.
question is, if nobody wants to do it and you can autoplay it, why is it?
Why does
there
it
to begin
exist?
with?
No, I mean you're
Yeah.
no, you're not
Yeah.
wrong. You're 100%
Yeah.
right. I think they should get rid of a lot of that shit. And
Mm-hmm.
Benji, what do you think? We'll wrap it up with this. Benji, what do you think?
I agree with a lot of the things you guys said already. Like what Saint said and ATK said. On top of that, what I would like to add is, well, for my case, probably not Asmin or Stoopzz or Saint or ATK. You guys have a lot more or influence or viewerships, but my experience, like I feel like Twitch is a very game enthusiastic community. And there are people who just play the game without watching, like, they're just chilling, just playing the game by themselves. They're just enjoying their own time. So I think what we say might be, I think it can go both ways. Plus, I mean, it could be positive, negative, whatever. But whatever we do, like, I don't think it should. I started saying this, but I don't know how to wrap this up.
Oh, I thought you were like that. I got confused as hell.
I can't wrap this up.
Well, content creators are obviously valuable. That's why streamers get paid to play games.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So like, there's
Right,
clearly
right.
like
Bro.
yeah, there's an overall net positive of having content creators play the game, but like
Right.
of course there can be negatives to that too.
I
Right.
think
Yeah, I'm just saying. I stopped by a lot of streams of people that played Lost Ark, and usually they don't have the greatest things to say about it anymore because they quit for a reason, you know. Like
Yeah.
Alex stream and Diablo, Lyric talks about Lost Ark surprisingly way more often than I would have thought. But he talks about the combat a lot, and but then he says there's a reason why people don't play it currently and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But that's what I'm saying is like a lot of these content creators who played the game at some point in time, they also quit the game at some point in time, and that's their last impression that was left on them, the reason that they quit.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. I mean, they have to make these changes because eventually, I think I heard you say it, Asma. It's like eventually, it's like, wow, like I don't really like. I don't think care really what WoW does anymore because unless they make WoW 2, I'm not that like interested, right? Like I just need something new or something fresh, and like you eventually you fall out of interest. Like you'll follow a game, follow a game, follow a game, follow a game, but if they don't make the changes fast enough, you're just gonna move on mentally to something else, and your interest level will drop off quite a bit.
That's not a
Yeah.
bad thing, right? But it is bad for the game.
Yeah, so they definitely need to make. I think.
Do we have time for one more topic by any chance? Does everyone have time for one more?
I can say for one more.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Do you mind if I take over this last one, Stoopzz?
Go for it.
So we've been talking about the state of Lost Ark currently, and it's coming off the heels of this live stream that happened on the Korean side, and because of that, a lot of the topics today have been related to the Korean audience's sentiments. But as you know, a lot of our audiences, if not a majority, if not more than 90% of our audiences, are Western players, including everyone tuned in right now. And what I wanted to talk about is Amazon as a publisher, because coming off of the disaster that was low
true.
on summer 2023, Amazon dropped a bomb of a letter saying that everything that was shown on Loa on would actually arrive in the West within a month or two, which was extremely surprising. And they've kind of been farming W's. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because obviously with Lost Ark, a lot of people who are watching play the game, and so Amazon is your publisher. But moreover, on top of that, a lot of upcoming MMOs are also being published by Amazon, and people have very varying opinions of that. They either have concerns or they're enthusiastic about the idea that Amazon is the one publishing games like Blue Protocol, TL, The Lord of the Rings MMO that's being developed right now.
I forgot about that. Lord of the
Right?
Rings MMO.
Yeah. And I wanted to know what your current impressions and opinions of are on Amazon, and what they can do better, if they should be doing something specifically better.
I think they should just keep going with this direction.
I think
this,
they've been doing much better. Like at the
yeah.
beginning, it was bad with Argos, but like I think that
Mhm.
was the worst of it, and things have improved since then.
I think this merge is so big. I feel like this merge is really big.
Mm,
The European region merge.
that's
I think
right.
that's a-
The US
yeah,
is
I
being
think-
merged with EU Central.
Right. I think that's a really big move. I think that's going to improve a lot of the like auction house problems, how there's no listings and stuff like that, and how there's no
Yeah.
parties
Yeah.
to rate it with in the first place. There's going to be more parties now since it's merged, and since this is just a test in the Europe version, if this goes well, I'm thinking it's going to maybe happen in NA version as well.
Yeah.
So I think it looks very I think it's
That's some
only
good hopium.
I think it's only a positive
Yeah.
if this region merge happens
Mm.
for the Western version as well.
But going off of what you said, Asman, how they started off rocky. I mean, that's just the thing. Amazon as a game publisher is still relatively infantile, and they made a lot of errors beginning, but
Yeah.
they have shown signs of actually improving, which is rare. Sometimes these companies, they make mistakes, they don't learn from their mistakes, and they keep making mistakes. But we have seen that they have been quite literally improving. When they make a mistake, they try not to make it again. And that's rare coming from publishers, because the publisher industry in general for video games is not exactly stellar. Because when you think of the alternatives to publishers that publish games that don't belong to them, there's only a few, and those are Nexon, Gameforge, Kakao, NCSoft to a degree, and Mycom, and there's probably one or two that I'm forgetting, but the bar is set so incredibly low when it comes to game publishing that it is actually refreshing to see a publisher put in effort, even if they fall on their face sometimes along the way. It's like a little child. It's like an infant that falls and learns how to walk.
Who would have thought a year ago that people would be celebrating Amazon and Smilegate's getting shit on? Like, I mean, realistically, like, who would have thought that a year ago? Everyone was like, Smilegate, make the game like Korea, make the game like Korea. And then everyone's like, wait a minute, this is not good. And now everyone's shitting on them. I think Amazon, I always ask this to people all the time. I don't give a fuck if I get called a shill. Who else would publish a game? Who else do we actually have that's going to publish an MMORPG? Like, we don't have anyone.
Yeah, that's what I said too.
There's literally nobody else. And I think they're doing, I think obviously the mistakes that they've made are like just rookie, and like they're new to what they're doing. And they're like maybe not the greatest communication. Maybe they say something they shouldn't have said, whatever. But overall, Mad Mushroom, why are you guys doing indie games?
Yeah, sure. We'll go ahead and we'll publish the next big MMO. Yeah, sure, as our first game. Yeah, it'll be no problem.
Yeah. I think overall it's like they're not doing that bad of a job, and I don't know that many other public, but they get shit on a lot, man. I mean, I see it everywhere with Blue Protocol and other games. So I think it's just gonna take some time. People don't forget, and so you have to win over their trust. But like I said, I think they've been doing a pretty good job compared to most publishers. If you look at BDO, they had Kakao Games publish their game, and then the game went through so much shit, and they had to, like, I think, buy back their publishing rights, and now it's Pearl Abyss, and the game's doing better. So overall, I think Amazon's not doing bad, and I think a lot of people in the West are at least happy that Amazon's doing the best that they can for at least Lost Ark. And I think New World, they're still trying, man.
They're actually trying. I mean, there are a lot of good things about it, and it's improving, and they are adding new content. They do regular videos. They're doing their best, but that game has a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Is this me, or is there a disco party going on in your room right
now?
It's not a disco party. It is Seal from Honkai Star Rail.
Oh.
Wait.
You played that too? I played that too.
Yeah.
Well, you're playing Honkai Star right now? I was almost certain you were playing D4.
I was. And then I realized that, like, I needed to do my dailies before I had to stream.
Is that game fun? I haven't played it.
Which one?
Honkai. No, D4 after 80 sucks ass, dude. It is so painful after 80. Is Honkai Star Rail fun?
I don't know. I don't play it. The game plays itself.
That's how Lost Ark Daily should be.
You'll like TL, dude. You'll like TL, then I bet you will.
Dude, every time I play Honkai, it's like Lost Ark Daily should be like this.
Yeah,
it's so fast and easy.
It took me like 1 minute. Done. Yeah.
Alrighty, well,
that's what I think.
I don't want to keep it. I don't want to keep him any longer, and I appreciate you guys coming on the chat. The main point of doing this is just to kind of, like, I think maybe ease the tension a little bit. There's a lot of things the game needs to work on. They're already getting massively shit on, and I think ultimately, at least for me, just do what makes sense for you and your enjoyment playing the game. If you're not having a good time, don't keep playing. I know it sounds I'm not anti the game, but I don't think you should be miserable in your life. You should find things that you enjoy and do those and pursue those. But overall, hopefully, it was a little therapeutic for some people that like playing the game, because there are a lot of people that still enjoy playing the game, and I think you should keep playing the game if you do enjoy it. Anything else, or we good?
Don't play a game that pisses you off, that makes you mad all the time. Like, what are you doing with your life? Like, what is this? Yes, stop it. It's like Lost Ark. I don't have, like, particularly bad feelings towards it. I'm just not playing it right now. Like, I don't hate the game. I'm just not playing it a lot right now. Hopefully that will change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, boys. Well, I thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for coming on, Asmongold. I know that was super short notice. Thank you, Benji, for waking up super early. ATK. Thank you for waking up super early because your schedule's fucked up. And Saint, I think you slept, so thanks for coming on as well. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, guys. Take it easy, everyone.
It's great meeting you.
I'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye. Okay. All
That was
right.
like 2 hours.
Yeah, that was like two
2 hours.